Well, my name is Elle Richardson.
And then you want to make sure you kind of hold it up
It's
a
all the
little.
way up.
There you
That's
go.
good? Okay.
Yeah.
I am a real estate investor. I do fix and flips primarily on mobile homes. I've done a few. I have one that we just finished last month. Yes, May now. And it's on the market right now. So it's been getting a lot of traction, so I'm excited to see how that goes. But this year I have a goal, and I wanted to start really expanding my portfolio, and I'm looking to purchase my first rental property. So I actually had an opportunity recently, and I was totally freaked out and stressed, and I called Rich, I called Goodwin, I called Farah.
And I
I'm like,
didn't answer. I'm sorry.
I was calling and scratching. I'm like, okay, so what do I do? So I ran numbers. But the challenge that I found, I don't know what I don't know. So I didn't know exactly what should I be looking for. What numbers do I need to consider? And there's two parts to this. But just, I know mobile homes. I know how to evaluate them. I know what they're going to be priced at. I know how to comp them. I got all of that. But a rental property with a tenant in place, one without a tenant, is it going to need work? Does it need that? It was just a lot. And I just really didn't know what was like the key pieces of information that I should have. So that was my main dilemma.
And then you also mentioned the money part. Oh, yeah.
Part two of that was if I couldn't get a seller carry finance, which is what my goal was, it was going to work really well if I could have gotten that. The other piece was like, okay, so if that doesn't work, then how in the world do I get, $500,000, for a rental property? It was being sold well below market, which is why I really was excited about it. ARV was, even in its condition, was about 620, but if I did more to it, about 650 easy, and he was selling it for like 535. So, and it had a long-term tenant in there who was paying right about market rent, but it hadn't been raised in a long time, but she had been there 15 years. So I also knew, I was like, I think I want her. I'm pretty sure I want her to stay. So those were my two things. It was like, okay, what should I be looking for? How do I run my numbers? What are the numbers that I should be running? And then how do I come up with $535,000 with no money down or no cash, enough cash for a down payment?
Rich, do you want to share what you told me the other day about the 10-10-10-10?
John Schaub's 10-10-10-10 rule? See if I can remember. Okay, so I've seen John Schaub talk 4 times now, and I was going through my, what's that? That's all right. And I was going through, I just took John and Pete's class in Florida last month. And I wrote down, one of my notes was like 10-10-10-10 rule, burn it into my brain. So let's see if I accomplish that. It is no more than 10% down, at least a 10% discount, a term longer than 10 years, and I always get 3 of them, and then no more than 10% interest. So that's John Schaub's, and for those of you that don't know who John Schaub is, he wrote a book called Building Wealth One House at a Time. His end game is pretty much a very quote-unquote easy system to follow to get to like 10 paid-off rental properties, okay? So the 10-10-10-10 rule is basically his guide on if you get that and you can get the property to follow those rules, you're pretty much saying yes, okay? Okay, so go ahead. No more than 10% down. You want at least a 10% discount. And you want the term, if you're getting seller finance, you want the money for at least 10 years. And you want no more than 10% interest. So if you get all those, but you have a 2-year balloon where you're going to owe that money back in 2 years, John would say not to do that. Have I never done that? No, I've done that a lot. But that's the rule. So, you're just going crazy, huh? What do you think?
Up here. Say,
There you go.
all right. Yeah, right when you said that, I was like, oh, he shared that with me the other day, and I didn't want to steal your thunder because I mean, technically John Shaw, but you paid for the class and you flew out there, so I wanted.
So is that why you did not share that with me when we were on the phone?
He probably forgot.
I'm putting him on the. He was sick that day and was in the. Yeah, he was sick, and baby Evie was getting shots, and he was at the doctor's office, and he still took the time to call me and walk through like a lot of stuff with me. So I just wanted to give you a little hard time on that one. With a little slide.
All right, Sarah, tell us a little bit about yourself and what is your real estate challenge? Hello? Oh, is it on?
Oh, hello. Hi, guys. Okay, so I am an agent and I run Airbnbs for investors as well. And you want me to go into my challenge right now? Okay. I have 2 mobile homes that are listed in Eastvale.
They're my mobile homes.
Yes, in Eastvale, fully
This is our
renovated,
problem.
updated. One's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. The other one is a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, and have multiple open houses, lots of traction. The biggest challenge is my space rent. And there is nothing, and I've talked to the park manager about it.
Hold on. How much is the space rent?
So one of them is $2,023. Yes.
I thought it was 2029.
Okay, 2029.
To be exact.
And the other one is
03.
1803. Okay. We are
Plus
the
utilities,
highest
but yeah.
space rent in the park.
Well, there's one higher than us, right?
Not anymore. Yes, it's not listed anymore.
Oh, okay.
There was one for a short week there that was listed for $25.25, their space rent, but they took it off the market. That is my biggest challenge, my biggest feedback from everybody who comes to see it when they ask what the space rent is. We are offering buyer credit, buyer cash back up to $10,000 per listing, offering up to 50% seller financing. Yeah, and I'm stuck. One's listed for $165, the 3-bedroom, 2-bath. The other one is listed for $150. Comparables for the 3-bedroom, 2-bath would have sold in the last year, from 2 sold in December for $140, $220, and the other one sold for $165. Their space rents are at $1,100 and $1,500. There's not very many that sold for like a 2-bedroom. Basically, I have one's on the market for $120. That's not updated or anything like that. Space rent's $1,603. And then one that actually sold January of this year, it sold for $78, and their space rent's $1,650.
Are you guys close to that lake? Is that why the space rent is that high?
One of them, we are close to the lake, and what I have Sandy on speed dial. She's like the manager of the parks,
The regional.
and I've talked to her multiple times to see if we can pay down the space rent so we can advertise it at a lower price. And she sometimes, because she doesn't even, when she lists mobile homes, she doesn't even put the space rent on her listing because she doesn't have to. I have to as an agent. It doesn't allow me not to.
Janine.
I'm curious, is it the management doing the approval process? Is that the problem with the space rent amount, or is it just people in general don't want to pay that space rent?
People in general do not want to pay the space rent. The feedback I get is like, well, I could just go buy a house.
Which in Eastvale, they could not just go and buy a house. The person looking at it cannot afford a house in Eastvale. So,
Yeah.
yes, Rich actually had some good advice earlier. Go ahead, Rich. Unless it's different advice, but I mean, repeat whatever you want to say.
So if you're getting, in my mind, if you have the listing, most people that are going to go see this mobile home are probably going to go see it with an agent. You have super on it, or
Yep. I have
probably going to go see with an agent.
mm-hmm.
And if their
Well, I would hope that they would know it, yeah.
We would have a good amount of foot traffic, and then everyone's just throwing their hands up and saying, oh no, the space rent's too high, when most of them probably knew that going in, and most, I would imagine, like if you look at the other parks in the area, what's their space rent?
That is technically the only
It's
park
the
in
only
Eastville.
park in Eastville.
And then,
I mean,
yeah.
there's a lot of people that would love to live in Eastville. but
Yeah.
It just seems odd to me that you're getting so much foot traffic, you're saying you're getting it.
And she does have them listed in Facebook Marketplace. We did try just doing like the monthly total of what their payment would be if they got financing plus the space rent.
Yep.
And I think you just get a lot of, is it available?
Yeah. One's a 2-bedroom, the other one's a 3-bedroom. And as far as the agent thing, a lot of agents will ask, is that the right space rent? And I said, yes.
Is it a privately owned park?
Yeah.
When you say privately owned,
Is it owned by corporate or is it like a
well, from what I understand, there's a group of attorneys that own that park. And then the BNC, no, they're, anyone know what Swan Lake is? It's not BNC. It'll come to me in a second. I just can't think of it right now.
sorry, it's a family friendly park? Or
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, all
it's,
ages.
It's all ages.
And then like the amenities are
So tell us a little bit about yourself, and then what is your real estate challenge?
All right. Good afternoon or good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Rafael. I mainly focus on fix and flips. I've been doing mobile homes for the last couple of years. And I got to tell you, as far as challenges go, I got many.
Don't we all?
But when Farah asked me, hey, would you object to joining us up on stage today? I said, yeah, sure. Hadn't given any thought whatsoever as to what I should talk about, what challenge to present. And so when I saw her right before the meeting, I said, hey, you know what, Farah? I think my challenges lately are probably a little bit more personal than they are as it relates to real estate. And so, several months ago, and this is more story time, I guess, than an actual problem here. Several months ago, I was really struggling to find deals. I'm a newer investor. I've only had a few flips, under my belt, a rental sometime, back in the olden days. And so a couple months ago, almost a year ago, I was really struggling. My partner and I, we were really struggling to find the deals. And, I'd been trying really hard to get into real estate. And, I got to that point where I put myself into a situation where I needed to bring in some income. I needed to bring in some income. I was previously in the automotive industry. So the first thing I did was go back to where I knew I could succeed, just because I'd been doing it for so long. I had an opportunity to join a friend, and so I started working in a dealership. My partner and I, we'd still go out, look for deals, make some offers, run some numbers, and when I first started at this dealership, I had a lot of flexibility. I came in just kind of low ranks, just for the flexibility, so that I can have a day off in the middle of the week if I needed to. Walk away, make some calls, analyze numbers if I had to, and stay as engaged with real estate as I could. Well, as time kind of progressed, I was actually let go from the dealership, and I said, all right, whatever. So went back to looking for deals, analyzed a few more, made a few more offers, and then the dealership said, you know what? Actually, we need you back. Can you come back? You know what? Sure. I went back. This was the month of December. Dead. December was just super slow. January came around, like super slow still very slow. And right around January, I had an opportunity to change departments, if you will. Still in, purchasing. But right around that time when they said, hey, why don't you join us over here? We've got this location. It's been struggling for years now. Come and just do what you do best. Just run it however you want. The store had been in the red for years. They'd considered closing it down. And right when they told me, hey, let's do this, my partner and I found a deal. So I said, all right. Up until now, I've had no problem, taking phone calls, stepping aside as I needed to. And so towards the end of January, February comes in, we make the offer. Offer gets accepted on our mobile home in Paris. And so I think my biggest challenge was my time management. I underestimated how much I could do while working this W-2. And then while I was there, I did not expect how incredibly, insanely busy I was going to become. From January, I had brought in maybe $30,000 worth of revenue to the dealership. February, similar, 30, 35. March, closer to 40. And this last month, the month that we started, that we were really focused on the rehab, and rehab being where I was supposed to focus in and stand in, I brought in over $100,000 worth of business to the dealership and just revenue. And so I completely underestimated how I was going to be able to do everything that I was doing at a dealership. Be a father to my children. 'Cause I'm a single father. For those of you who don't know, 1 week they're with their mother, the other week they're home with me. And then still do my best. And to my partner, I'm so sorry. I'm sure I drove you up a wall.
For those of you that know, Ella's his partner he's referring to.
Yvette, I know I drove you up a wall. It was tough trying to take phone calls in the middle of a notch and throwing up my hand and then still talking about, well, we need to go out and buy the flooring this weekend, and we got to. My biggest challenge, and what I severely underestimated, was my time management.
So-
I say time management, right? But my struggle was that for months there, from it was about Valentine's Day to about the end of April. I was, and many of us, I'm sure many of you can relate. I mean, I was waking up at the crack of dawn to get to my W-2 sometimes at 7, 8 in the morning, depends on whether I needed to be at the physical auction, whether I needed to be at the office. Make sure that I finished all of my work by 5 o'clock, though I could have stayed as late as I needed to. Finish up so that the days that I needed to either go to my kids